Hello, YouTubers, and welcome to Level-Headed News. This is your host, Brenda. I found an interesting article that I wanted to bring to your attention. It's off of Zero Hedge. The URL for it is in the description of this video in case you want to take a look at it for yourself. But it says, when the rich become preppers, it's time to worry. For over 10 years now, we've been openly advocating that folks take action to become more prepared should crisis arrive. And for a long time, this advice regulated us to be labeled tinfoil hat doomsday preppers and other less polite monikers. The media just couldn't figure out any other way to box us in. But now the concept of taking at least some responsibility for your own future well-being by increasing your self-reliance is finally moving towards the mainstream. Of course, government agencies have long ascribed to situational planning in case sudden unrest were to happen. Nations around the world have long invested in redundant supply chains as well as well-stocked disaster continuity caves, fortresses, and hardened facilities of all sorts. It strikes us against a puzzling that most private citizens fully expect their government to be prepared for disaster like this, yet don't see similar wisdom in practicing a similar approach to preparation in their own life. In fact, many go as far as to denigrate and even mock their friends and neighbors who do. Perhaps that gap between what's considered acceptable in a public institution but not in a private home best explained as abdication of personal responsibility. It happens a lot in our society. Live your life and let the government worry about the scary stuff. They'll take care of us if something bad happens. We think it's a huge error in judgment. Remember Katrina, anyone? And why it's convenient and comforting narrative to hold. Plus, it frees up a lot more time to shop at the big box stores and keep up on the Kardashians. Life's more fun and stress-free right up until some unexpected disruption occurs. Well, we here at Peak Prosperity deeply believe in shouldering our own personal responsibility, and not just to protect our own private well-being, but also that of the communities we live in and depend on. Peak Prosperity's mission is to create a world worth inheriting. You don't do that simply waiting to see if the cavalry is ever going to show up. You assume responsibility for your own destiny and inspire others to do the same by offering your support and serving as a living model for others to emulate. Those expecting and demanding state to have high emergency preparedness while not practicing the same in their own lives lack integrity. Nobody respects a low integrity person for very long. Here's a pro tip. Don't fly your personal jet to give a lecture on the importance of addressing climate change. A resilient nation is built from the bottom up, starting with the resilient households. Enough of those households creates resilient neighborhoods, and those in turn lead to resilient towns and cities, and then countries and states. You get the point? So, taking steps to be partially self-sufficient in the basics of life, food, warmth, shelter, and water, and have useful experience or skills, medicine, fixing things, building, distilling, just to name a few, just makes sense. You don't have to strive to be completely self-reliant. It's not realistic or necessary. Just position yourself to reduce your lifestyle requirements during times of strife and to contribute valued support to those whom in turn help. Preparing is rapidly going mainstream. For years now, I've written that the highly wealthy people whom I encounter through conferences, family offices, and private consultations all got the bug-out vibe after 2008 crash, if not before. Today, many of them are more thoroughly prepared than us regular folks can imagine. Disaster prepping is now acceptable enough that this week's article in the New Yorker had no trouble finding high-profile executives to talk to on record. I couldn't help noticing that the reporter avoided inferring that these folks were crazy or implying as much. I guess once a critical mass of super wealthy tech entrepreneurs jumps on the bandwagon, it's suddenly hip to be a prepper. At any rate, if you haven't already seen the article, Doomsday Prep for the Super Rich. This was posted January the 30th of 2017. It says, Steve Huffman, the 33-year-old co-founder and CEO of Reddit, which is valued at $600 million, was nearsighted until November of 2015 when he arranged to have laser eye surgery. He underwent the procedure not for the sake of convenience or appearance, but rather for the reason he doesn't usually talk about much. He hopes that it will improve his odds of surviving a disaster, whether natural or man-made. If the world ends, and not even if the world ends, but if we have trouble getting contacts or glasses, it's going to be a huge pain in the ass, he told me recently. Without them, I'm effed. Huffman, who lives in San Francisco, has large blue eyes, thick sandy hair, and an air of restless curiosity. At the University of Virginia, he was a competitive ballroom dancer who hacked his roommate's website as a prank. He is less focused on specific threat, a quake on the San Andreas, a pandemic, a dirty bomb, than he is on the aftermath, the temporary collapse of the government and structures, as he puts it. I own a couple of motorcycles. I have a bunch of guns and ammo, food. I figured that with that, I can hole up in the house for some amount of time. Survivalism, the practice of preparing for a crack-up of civilization, tends to evoke a certain picture: the woodsman in the tinfoil hat, the hysteric with the hoard of beans, the religious doomsdayer. But in recent years, survivalism has expanded to more affluent quarters, taking root in Silicon Valley and New York City among technology executives, hedge fund managers, and others in their economic cohort. Last spring, as the presidential campaign exposed increasingly toxic divisions in America, Antonio Garcia Martinez, a 40-year-old former Facebook product manager living in San Francisco, bought 5 wooded acres on an island in the Pacific Northwest and brought in generators, solar panels, and thousands of rounds of ammunition. When society loses a healthy founding myth, it descends into chaos, he told me. The author of Chaos Monkeys, an acerbic Silicon Valley memoir, Garcia Martinez wanted a refuge that would be far from cities but not entirely isolated. All these dudes think that one guy alone could somehow withstand the roving mob, he said. No, you're going to need to form a local militia. You just need so many things to actually ride out the apocalypse. Once he started telling peers in the Bay Area about his little island project, they came out of the woodwork to describe their own preparations, he said. I think people who are particularly attuned to the levers by which society actually works understands that we are skating on really thin ice right now. In private Facebook groups, wealthy survivalists swap tips on gas masks, bunkers, and locations safe from the effects of climate change. One member, the head of an investment firm, told me, I keep a helicopter gas up at all times. I have an underground bunker with an air filtration system. He said that his preparations probably put him at the extreme end among his peers. But he added, a lot of my friends do guns and motorcycles and gold coins. That's not too rare anymore. Tim Chang, a 44-year-old managing director at the Mayfield Fund, a venture capital firm, told me, there's a bunch of us in the Valley. We meet up and have these financial hacking dinners and talk about backup plans people are doing. It runs the gambit from a lot of people stocking up on Bitcoin and cryptocurrency to figuring out how to get second passports if they need it, to having vacation homes in other countries that could escape havens, he said. I'll be candid, I'm stockpiling now on real estate to generate passive income, but also to have havens to go to. He and his wife, who is in technology, keep a set of bags packed for themselves and their 4-year-old daughter. He told me, I kind of have this terror scenario. Oh my God, if there is a civil war or giant earthquake that cleaves off part of California, we want to be ready. The message is clear enough. The wealthy have caught on to the idea that the probability of a major social disruption is high enough to merit serious action. Prepping is now becoming a thing, and that makes it incredibly okay to talk about in the open. That's a great development. We at Peak Prosperity have been waiting for this milestone for a decade now, but it comes with a cost. The more people who awaken to the risk we face, the faster the peaceful complacency society has slumbered in will dissipate. From here, it's only hop, skip, and a jump for the newly awake to start losing faith in our debt-free fiat money system and the massive unsustainability of the economic build on top of it. As our readers know very well, once you understand how these systems are structured, it's hard not to be shocked by their fragility, not to mention their deep unfairness. For example, our food distribution system relies on a lot of moving integrated parts. If any one of these breaks down, the shipment of food and pharmaceuticals and many other components of daily life simply stop. Cities only have about 3 days worth of inventory at any given time. Should a shock occur to the system, even minor one like winter blizzard, supply can dwindle out in a matter of hours as people scramble to get what they need. Here's an image of shelves at a Walmart in North Carolina taken as relatively minor snowstorm was approaching the area on January 6th of 2017. And there is a picture here, and the shelves are empty. The line between well-stocked and stripped bare is merely a matter of public awareness. Once people become worried about the possibility of scarcity, their mad scramble to hoard what they can actually creates the very scarcity they fear. That's because our system is deliberately run on a just-in-time basis in order to maximize profit. Excess inventory incurs storage fees, so we optimize our supply chains to avoid it. It begs the question, perhaps the human suffering cost of quickly running out of essentials during an emergency is higher than the dollars saved by keeping inventory levels minimal. Our fractional reserve banking is structured the same way. It only works if everyone doesn't show up at the same time demanding to withdraw their money. If that ever happens, there isn't nearly enough supply for everyone. Once the illusion is exposed, these people get panicky and start grouping into angry mobs. Think it can't happen here? Just talk to the folks in India. 2 months ago, they would have agreed with you. Today, the most they are allowed to withdraw from their bank is a few $100s worth of banknotes per week. Here, a video of a run on the bank there, where the swarming masses quickly stampede over security guards, trampling elderly patrons in the process. And there's the video in this if you want to pull it up and take a look at it. And it's even worse in Venezuela. There, the limit is $5 US dollars per day. If you had 10,000 US dollars of savings in the bank, at that rate, it would take you 5.5 years to withdraw it all. Of course, most truly catastrophic events are quite rare. Rather than worry about them, it usually makes sense to simply ignore these tail risks and carry on with your life. I do this rather than stress out about large asteroid impacts or Yellowstone supervolcano eruptions. While either these could happen in my lifetime, the odds are incredibly low, and there's virtually nothing I can do to prepare or predict such an event, so I don't even try. The other potential threats to our well-being, however, have much higher probabilities, and yet most people are quite content to ignore the need to prepare no matter how high the risks. Few people maintain a deep pantry, which is why the store shelves invariably get stripped as big storms roll into town, and only a small minority of people living along California's active fault lines have put together a well-stocked earthquake kit. But more thinkers are embracing the wisdom of investing in an ounce of prevention today. In the New Yorker article, the techies from Silicon Valley seem more inclined to do the math and follow logic. Yishan Wang, an early Facebook employee, was the CEO of Reddit from 2012 to 2014. He too had eye surgery for survival purposes, eliminating his dependence, as he puts it, on a non-sustainable external aid for perfect vision. In an email, Wang told me, most people just assume improbable events don't happen, but technical people tend to view risk very mathematically. He continued, the tech preppers do not necessarily think a collapse is likely. They consider it a remote event, but one with very severe downside. So given how much money they have, spending a fraction of their net worth to hedge against this is the logical thing to do. As we've advised for years, even if something has low probability, if its result would be catastrophic, then buy insurance if you can. Prepping for a major grid down power outage is simply a no-brainer for those who have decent math skills. The calculation is eminently rational, as there's a number of potential casual factors: weather, sabotage, squirrel, and the downside could be quite large. So with all the potential looming risks out there, economic shock, social disorder, supply chain failure, to name just a few, what are practical, affordable, achievable steps a prudent person should take? In part 2, Preparing Prudently, we present a specific list of the most useful preparations along with links to helpful resources and services for carrying them out. Nearly anyone can implement these, and nearly everyone should. The more of us who prepare wisely today, the more of us who will be in a position to be of service when the next crisis arrives. And there is a part 2 to this that you can click on a link to read that portion of this prepper article. But I wanted to bring this to your attention. So, you know, if there are people out there who are still dragging their heels and still don't think that we need to be prepping, perhaps this will help open your eyes, help you become aware that you can't rely on the stores if something goes horribly wrong. You need to have some supplies laid in. Don't expect the government is going to be here to help you. Ask the people that went through Katrina. I strongly urge you to read the second portion of this on your own and start, if you have not yet, preparing, and maybe you get some ideas if you're already a prepper that it might be beneficial to you. So I hope this helped you out. If you like what I'm trying to do here, give it a thumbs up. Share it on your social media so other people become aware. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done that yet. You click that little bell beside the subscription button and check the box. You'll get email alerts every time I put a show up, and that way you stay informed.